You think a red flag is something he does. It isn't. A red flag is something you're asked to give up. And the moment you give it up, it doesn't look like a flag. It looks like love. This is about that. Nobody would have called Claire naive. 34, a lawyer, she'd read the books on manipulators. She could read her own friends better than their therapists could. When Daniel showed up, she was actively hunting for warning signs. She didn't find any. He was calm. Didn't drink, didn't shout, didn't do jealousy in public. The safest man she'd ever met. They married fast. Here's what happened next. He never pushed. He suggested. Merge the accounts, easier to pay for the shared things. She agreed. She basically suggested it herself. The baby came. Take a year off. You'll go back later. Made sense. Let's move to my city. My mother's here. She'll help with the little one. Made sense. Every step was normal, and every time it felt like her own decision. And once you're in the current, you don't watch where it's taking you. Why would you? Good husband, same direction, no problems. Over time, his suggestions stopped being soft. Not let's, but you're seriously doing this right now. Not makes sense, but who exactly did you run that by? Same current. You could just hear it now. If you'd asked her about red flags, she'd have named the 2 times in 4 years he raised his voice. That's the decoy. That's the part that makes good YouTube. The actual construction went up in silence. Her name wasn't on the lease. Her career hadn't existed for 3 years. Her friends were in another city. He called her mother toxic, so gently that Claire started keeping her distance herself. You don't see the wall as a threat. The wall looks like a family. Then year 5. The kid starts school. You have to map out the next 12 years. Claire sat down with the calendar. There was his city, his job, his mother, his schedule. She wasn't on it. Not less space, not on it at all. That was the night. No flag. She just saw that she, as a separate person, no longer existed. Dissolved one reasonable step at a time. And she'd handed over every step herself. Claire left. And here's where the video is supposed to end well. It doesn't. Because in the courtroom it turned out Daniel had been preparing longer than she had. A folder of dates, screenshots of her being emotional, a note that she'd seen a therapist. He spoke evenly, quietly, to the point. She was shaking, hadn't slept in 3 weeks, kept losing the dates. The court looked at the calm man and the trembling woman and drew exactly the conclusion Daniel had spent 4 years preparing it to draw. The kids got split 50-50. Every handover became a new line he could reach her through. She didn't escape the trap. She set off the part of it that had been waiting the whole time. Now, and first, swap every pronoun. Same script. He's the one being taken apart. She controls the money. She's cut him off from his friends. Every objection gets, "You're so dramatic, you're unstable." And when he tried to leave, "I'll tell everyone you hit me." And here's the worst part. He doesn't even have a word for it. He doesn't say, "I'm being abused." He says, "My wife's got a difficult personality." The system assumes she's safe and he's the danger before either of them opens their mouth. Same trap. The system just breaks him from the other side. The mechanism has no gender. Here it is. Your brain counts frequency, not weight. One act of contempt should outweigh 100 good dinners. But the brain keeps score by the number of events. 100 dinners against 1 sentence. That's 100 to 1 in favor of staying. You're not blind. You're running a broken formula, and the formula always returns stay. Then there's the ruler. A sentence he said in year 4 would have ended a first date. Same sentence. What changed was the ruler, and you moved it yourself, one, okay, just this once, at a time. And here's the part almost nobody says out loud. The calm manipulator isn't impulsive. He's a builder. The shouting and the blow-ups are the smoke, so you'll watch the fire while the wall goes up behind you. He didn't lose control over the years. He was installing it, methodically, on a schedule that had your exit as its own line item. And why don't you leave once it's all obvious? Because leaving means admitting the version of you that chose all this got everything wrong. The brain doesn't defend the relationship, it defends that version of you. For you to leave, she has to die. That's expensive, sometimes unbearable. Gustave Le Bon described this back in 1895. An assertion repeated enough times with no proof at all becomes a belief. He was writing about crowds, but you're your own crowd of one. You repeat, "It's fine" to yourself 100 times a day, and at some point it becomes true inside your head. Outside it, less so. There was a moment you saw it and explained to yourself why it was okay. What were the exact words you used? Write them down, word for word. Same thing at scale. So you can see this isn't a flaw in one relationship. It's a structure that repeats at every size. NXIVM. From the outside, a personal growth organization. Trainings, coaching, successful people, actresses, billionaires' daughters, no basements. People paid money to get in. Here was the engineering. To move up a level, you were asked for collateral, dirt on yourself, an explicit photo, a recorded confession, the rights to your assets, presented as a trust exercise during the good phase when you're impressed and suspicious of nothing. That's your joint account, your move, your kid. The lever installed during the bright period by design, so the exit would be a catastrophe. And once a person understood where they were, leaving meant the collateral got used. The door was there. The way out through it just cost you your whole life. And the price was set in advance with your own hands. Hannah Arendt wrote about the most effective form of control. It isn't force. It's a lie repeated by everyone around you long enough that doubting it starts to feel like the insane move. In NXIVM, it ran through the group. In a marriage, it runs through one person and your own head. Different scale, same blueprint. How to tell you're already inside. 3 checks, no psychology. First, stop watching what he does. Look at what you've stopped doing without permission. Run an exit audit. Whose name is on the lease? Whose is on the account? Who has the passwords? Who has the paperwork? Who has the kid by default? If you can't leave on a Tuesday without a catastrophe, the catastrophe was built on purpose and built early. Second, say one specific behavior out loud, calmly, once, and clock what happens to you in the next 10 minutes. If the conversation stops being about his behavior and becomes about your tone, your memory, your instability, that turn is the diagnosis. The subject was him. It became you. That takes minutes. Third, and this one's about you personally. I understand manipulation, I'd see it, is not protection. It's the last and most convincing excuse there is. The people who fall deepest are exactly the ones who were sure they couldn't. And yes, you've watched the documentaries, you've read the threads, you're practically an in-house expert by now. That's not your armor. That's the part of you he's counting on. A video about red flags can't save you from this. If anything, finishing it and feeling informed is precisely the feeling that keeps people in for another year. Claire was a lawyer. It didn't help her. Her competence was part of the trap. The tool, not "imagine your friend is telling you this." Everyone's heard that one. Go back through the calendar. Find the date a sentence was said that, on a first date, would have ended the date. It was said. You stayed. That date isn't a memory, it's where the ruler got moved. Mark it. Now you know where the first brick is. John Ronson, looking at public shamings, noticed something precise. People always see the exit. What holds them is the story they've written for themselves, that there is no exit. Too convincing to drop. The story is convincing, but it's yours, which means you can write a different one. Everyone sees it, sooner or later. Everyone. The question was never whether you saw it. The question is what it'll cost you to leave. Whose name is on your way out?